Well, good morning, everybody. As you can see, I'm not in my usual setting. It's Thursday morning. I had an early meeting this morning, so didn't get the chance to do the video first. In Matthew and Mark, as we read through those chapters today, we're dealing with what part of what we talked about yesterday. And specifically, we see the different versions of Jesus meeting the rich young ruler. And there's nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing wrong with wealth, except when wealth makes you independent from God. Because there's nothing we can do to save ourselves. Salvation isn't from us. We can't save ourselves. There's no amount of good works. There's no gifts. There's no sacrifices. There's absolutely nothing we can do to save ourselves. Salvation is not from man. If that was possible, Jesus would not have had to go through everything that he went through. There's only one price for our salvation, and Jesus paid it. That's the only way. We had to be separated from sin, and the only way we could be separated from sin is by death. But it doesn't do anybody any good to die so we can be separated from sin. So we experience death with Christ on the cross, and then spiritually we were risen to life in him. So we have life, but it's only in him. Outside of him is death. So it's not that there's anything wrong with wealth, except for a wealth that makes us independent from God. We have to walk humbly before him. And by that, it means that we understand that there's nothing we have to offer him. He doesn't need anything from us. We walk with him because he chooses for us to walk with him. It's because this is all his choice. It's what he wants. It's what he desires. It's what he longs for. And it's not about what we bring to the table. It's about the fact that he wants us. That's might be beyond some of our of us to even imagine or to understand, because we always look at what we bring to the table. In a marriage, what's your strength? What's my strength? In friendships, this is what you bring, this is what I bring. And we have nothing to bring to God. We have nothing. He doesn't need our worship. He doesn't need anything from us. He has all of heaven, all of creation calls out to him. He doesn't need but he wants our adoration. He wants our love. He wants our worship. It's what he desires, but he doesn't need it. He wants us. He wants us, and so Jesus paid the price. So for us to think that we earn anything or that we bring anything to the table is arrogance. We have to understand our place of absolute dependence on him. We can't get into the kingdom realm on our own. We're dependent on him for that. We can't save ourselves. We are dependent on him for that. All good things are gifts from above. We bow our knee to him and we call him king. And as king, he offers us everything. We are designed for the kingdom. The kingdom is designed for us. When we're plugged into the kingdom, that is where we find our joy and our peace and our fulfillment, because the kingdom is all about the king. And that's who he is. And this is why Jesus says it is difficult for the wealthy. It is difficult. It's difficult for the wealthy. He says near impossible for the wealthy to enter into the kingdom, only because they depend on their wealth and not the king. And so that's why he looked at this rich young ruler and he loved his heart. He really loved his heart, because this is a man who wanted to do the right thing. So he loved his heart. But he saw that the thing that was preventing him from entering into this whole thing was his wealth. So he said to him, go, sell everything that you have and give it to the poor. And he gave him an invitation that he was not given to a lot of people at that time. And if you remember, the demon-possessed man asked to follow him. And Jesus said, no, you go back. You have a purpose here. You go and you tell everybody what happened. But the rich young ruler, he said, come follow me. But it was hard because this rich young ruler, he could not imagine existing without his wealth. And there's the problem. If there's anything in your life that you think that you can't live without, you've put your dependence in the wrong place. Yeah, so that's a good word, right? Okay, so I'm going to leave that with you. You guys have a fantastic day. Love you. Just be engaged and make sure that you don't have other gods, that there's nothing in your life that you're dependent on. Yeah, Christ and Christ alone. Be blessed.